And Tekla seemed impressed as well.
Yes.
She actually, Suzu got the mic first and was talking about how Tekla's never beat her and she shouldn't say such cocky things until she's able to beat her in a match. And Tekla was like, you're pretty tough, Suzu. And she's like, over here, she's like, you're not an idol at all. You could come hang with us cool girls over here. And she's like patting her H.A.T.E armband and holding out the hand like a handshake. And Suzu, of course, goes up like she's going to shake the hand, but then she just smacks her right across the face pretty hard. And I believe that's the moment you're talking about with everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I see that being a seed. Maybe it's a seed that is a season early, right?
Right.
But it's still a seed that I think plants. And it makes so much sense. It's one of those things that when you see it, you're like, oh, wow. And then you see the whole life of Suzuki with H.A.T.E. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like the black and the attitude.
You think a year from now we might be looking back like that handshake that Tekla gave her in the 5-star.
I can see Suzu leading the faction.
Suzu as a heel, straight heel, all black in H.A.T.E, just... it feels a certain kind of right.
Yeah, with the faction. If she was like a faction leader with the microphone, I mean, dude, she's so ruthless.
Like, look at Neo Genesis, like the 5 Neo Genesis members.
Right.
All they're pretty neon and they're light colors and everything. And then there's Suzu.
Yeah,
in there.
Suzu, who just happens to be friends with May, and that's how that all started.
Yes, because her and May formed a bond.
Yeah.
They became Crazy Star, and they were like such an odd couple and such an unlikely duo that it just was amazing, and they became the best of friends.
Because they were both indies.
That's all. Yeah, they weren't in a faction, so they just made their own little thing off to the side. But that's the reason that she's, and plus the O2 birthday.
It just reminds me, this is so weird, but it's a high school thing. When I was in high school, I was a wild child. I was that leather jacket wearing, tight jeans wearing, drinking, fighting. That was me.
Right.
And I met this guy, right? And he was a turtleneck wearing, lived on in the country club, golf course, like, you know, and all his friends were uppity. And I had never been around that type of people before where they actually had things mattered.
Right.
Like they could only date certain people. Like there was this group of girls that they dated.
Wow.
And they would go between this one and that one, you know, and like it was a big deal. And they would talk about what college they were going to go to. And I was used to sitting in a barn in a field shooting at cows and stuff. No, I mean, we never shot at cows. You know,
that's a joke.
Yeah, but just drinking moonshine and racing and, you know, just things like that. Guy stuff. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. There was an allure to it.
Right.
And I remember my friend Mike saying, hey, when he was going to first introduce me to the friends, right? And me and him had been hanging out and he was already on the wild side, you know?
Right.
And he was just like, he's like, let me do the talking at first, John, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I said, what are you so worried about? And he's like, well, it's just you're a bit taboo. And I'll never forget that. And the reason is I loved how it made me feel. But at the same time, I always felt that imposter thing, you know, like.
Right. Kind of just reinforces that you're not supposed to be here feeling.
I have felt that for Suzuki. And it's one of those things, you ever have things flash in your mind that you don't talk about? Because there's no reason to talk about it. But when you watch something or when you see something, you think about something. It reminds you of something.
Right.
Ever since Suzu has been with Neo Genesis, I have thought about that part of my life and thought about how funny it is that Suzu is totally that wild child.
Right.
That is having the time of her life, but there's some little element of fun that these girls probably don't understand.
Right. I get what you're saying. Like that first night when they introduced us to Neo Genesis and all 5 of them came out together and they're all in their new gear and with their new looks and everything. And I just remember thinking, wow, Sue's like one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
And I love Suzu Suzuki. And I love that she's in this group because it just makes so much sense. But on a level, it's like, is this where she belongs long term?
I mean, this girl came from living in a dojo with Julia.
Yeah.
You know, She went
buddying up with Risa Sarah.
Yeah, buddying up with Risa Sarah and into a traveling hardcore group, a traveling deathmatch troupe.
Yeah.
Into somehow stumbling into stardom to basically go after Julia and kill her.
Yes.
But, we went through all that and all the wowness of last year.
Mm-hmm. Winning the 5-star
Winning
Grand Prix.
the 5-star when you're not supposed to, that girl don't even go here,
Right.
All the stuff she's been through. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind for her. So now feeling like you belong has to be wonderful.
Right.
But there's no way she doesn't have just a tinge of imposter syndrome in that idol group.
There's an almost feeling of like they all got together and May was like, this is my friend.
Right.
Can she hang out with us?
That's what I mean, yeah.
And you just look at the other 4 girls in this group and tell me if any of them would say something like, I want to wear a wedding dress with scars all over my back when I get married.
Yeah.
Like Suzuki has in the past.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because, you're going to totally let May's friend come in. Plus, it's Suzuki, arguably the greatest of all of us, in a wrestling match.
Right.
And
she's the brawler.
Yeah. I mean,
she's going to protect.
It's perfect. I mean, hey, they've got Hazuki over there and they've got Tekla over here.
Right. We need one.
So I get it. Listen, I love it either way.
Me too. I do love her with Neo Genesis. I think it's adorable and I love it to death. But thinking about her in H.A.T.E, would it be the end of the world? I don't know.
I don't
think so.
It just got me thinking though. It's so interesting because when they do
I love it.
When they do stuff like this, it kills me because
it feels like they're trying to tell you something.
They don't do anything for no reason.
Right. And there's totally the chance that Tekla just did this to be Tekla. I mean, it's Tekla.
If anybody's going to kind of go off on their own.
Yeah. It's the Gabe Kid of stardom.
Yes.